have something really good, and then it's like I'm entering for the first time and they tear it apart. So I'm like going, I am
Yeah,
just
I
wondering
probably should have done that.
because I mean seriously, no offense, I did research, and they see a comparison point not anywhere in the same ballpark.
Now-
So like,
Is that an app? Is it like a disc?
Well, we are going to get underway tonight in our competition.
What did we
We're
say?
gonna get the lights.
hour something away. Oh yeah.
And we're gonna start off, everyone in your seats now. The show has begun. I'm gonna start off with some announcements, and then I got a panicked call yesterday. We don't have a speaker. And they thought it was a projection competition before the judges. What am I gonna do? So I have a little presentation that I'm going to do song and dance. I have a little presentation on tips on doing street candidates and just candid people in general that we will do then until the judges come in. Unlike Eric, I'm not giving anything away tonight, so I'm sorry. Our announcement. Next week, people competition is projection. That's October 14th. So the deadline is the week before that Wednesday. The week after that, October 21st, will be our Zoom presentation with Kathleen Clemens, who has a website, and you should check it out if you're thinking of attending the Zoom section. The website is listed in our calendar section under her event, and her pictures are really spectacular. These aren't just flowers. She's the one that puts flowers in blocks of ice and gets all different patterns and just uses different backgrounds on behind her flowers. And I'm not a flower person. I was really, really just interested in that. So that would be worth taking a look for. That's October 21st. Then we have a Zoom presentation, one of our favorites. This is in demand across the country. Joe Edelman. Joe Edelman is the one that does the did a Zoom presentation, one of our highest viewed ones called Critiques Suck as well. And it was really, really good too. But Joe is an excellent presenter, a really good guy. He's going to do it on portrait photography, but this isn't just sit the person down, turn to the left. I mean, he's very, very good. And a lot of good tips there as well. So that's October 28th. Joe will be giving us that Zoom presentation. September 2nd, we have black and white competition, which is projection. And our first SIG meeting was last night, the special interest group. It was very well attended. It was on autofocus with Dave Bush, and it was extremely interesting. Went well. And we decided next month, bird photography, birds in flight, birds on stick, birds, birds, birds. So it's going to be all about birds. And of course, he'll be talking on it, tips and tricks on bird photography. And then you're going to break into specific groups, Nikon, Canon, Sony, to discuss camera-specific issues. So those are the first Thursdays of every month. So that'll be coming up Thursday, November 3rd. The Rob Eric Camera and Equipment Sale, the last Saturday and Sunday of this month. All of his items are going to be sold with proceeds to the family. The biggest 15 items are going to be sold by silent auction. And people ask me, what was that? And silent auction is just where there's a piece of paper next to the item, and you have all day to bid on it. You write your name and a bid. If someone wants it a little more than that, they'll write their name to it, a little higher bid. And at the end of the day, the highest one on there, or the last one, they get to buy it as well. And that way we thought it would be fairest, because it wasn't that if you couldn't make it first thing, you still had a shot at getting some of the equipment, because this equipment is very, very well priced too. In the celebration of life that we had for Rob Eric, just reminding you, we had recorded that, and it is going to be permanently up on our website, but now it's up on our homepage. The links are there, and you can click. We've gotten an excellent response. The Westlake LaPorta Library, Public Library, the outdoors is the theme for our exhibit. We have a lot of entries, and again, the category is broad. So anything that you think might pertain to that, if you have a good picture, submit it. The link is on our competitions page with all of the instructions. Upload it to Judges are going to decide the best 40 images in order to be displayed, printed and displayed at the Westlake Public Library. Field Trip Photo Gallery, we have a Back to the Wild picture up now. It's working. We need more. Any of you who are on the Back to the Wild field trip, either this time or the time before, get your pictures up there. Just upload them on the gallery page. Name tags, we'll be printing them in about a few weeks too. So anyone who is a member and wants a name tag, just sign your name to the sheet that's always in the back. They're going to be by request only. And this and all of our competitions and public meetings are always on our YouTube channel. The Zoom meetings, the private ones, are going to be available with our new website in the members only section, which will be coming in a few months too. So we encourage you to view these on YouTube. So with that, we are going to now pull up, let's see, go up that onto the street portraiture. That one. Judges are ready?
Yeah.
The judges are ready.
Whoa.
Meaning we, you were, okay. Okay, you're gonna look, oh, I have two, I'm gonna give you 4 minutes or 5 minutes of street photography things. Put up the PowerPoint. People paid good money to be here, so that, minimize it, drag that out. So they're not looking, no, click on that. Click on the back camera. Back camera. Oh, yeah, that then just move it. Okay, and then over here, click. Okay, that should do it. Okay. Turn this down. Candid street photography. Spontaneous, non-posed photo. Natural light. And this is what makes it hard. No flash, no studio lights, no reflections, no reflectors. So you have really, you can't ask the person to move out into the light better or whatnot. You can't angle him or turn him, use reflectors. You kind of got to get what you have. And each one of these can never be duplicated. That's what makes them interesting. They only existed for that one brief second and then we're gone as well. Unlike in a studio, you can just put the person back and take it again. Technique, which we're not going to go over, the ability to rapidly take the shot when the opportunity presents itself is key in candid photography. You have to know your camera. Back button focus with continuous focus setting, which is taught in the fundamentals. Auto ISO. These are things you don't have to do. Even full auto. Nothing wrong with that because speed is the key. When something presents itself, you have to be able to take that picture fast, no fiddling. Sometimes you have to wait. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to load the photos up, but the judges are still judging. So I can slow down. Sometimes the opportunity presents itself, and you do have to wait. This was in a darkened room. I really liked the way she looked, the expressions on her face, but there was no light at all. And I waited a good 20 minutes just sitting there till she moved towards a window, and we had the window light. So sometimes if you see an opportunity, but it's not in the right spot, you wait and see if it presents itself. And here she just happened to move by a window where I was able to grab the available light. Here was a case where sometimes it's just fortuitous. This is one of the Navajo guides in Antelope Canyon. You can see beautiful, the face almost matches the rock in the back. But 20 feet off to his left is outside the canyon. It's bright sunlight. The picture just doesn't exist there. 20 feet to his right, you're in the canyon. There's kind of no light. So you have to always be on the lookout for that perfect situation. It was just fortuitous that he was right in that right spot. If you're looking for these things, you'll see it, and you've got to grab it. Someone steps in the way, he moves or turns, you can't ask them to just repeat it. So it's a matter of always keeping your eyes open. This was a case where I had a 70-200 telephoto on, And all of a sudden, the foreign minister of, I forget which African nation it was, came out. This was in Cairo. And he walked out and was right in front of me, but I have the telephoto on. And the only choice, you can't say, wait a second, stand there, let me change my lens or whatnot. You have to run down the street and you just go back. You get farther away so that the telephoto works on that. You have to be able to improvise in a lot of these things. And that's what makes it fun, because you don't have the opportunity of, wait, stand there, let me move back, let me get a different lens. And when you get the picture, sometimes it's very satisfying. There are all kinds of candidates. Telling a story, making the viewer wonder what's the story behind the photo. Something like that. This happens to be when you show this picture, the first thing people ask without the context is, well, what was he doing? What's the story there? And this is, people pay, that is expensive mud. You buy that mud, this is the Dead Sea, just off the coast of Jordan. And the Dead Sea, the mud is supposed to be healing muds. And people pay in the States just $1 million to get that mud to smear on them and whatnot. There it's all around. I guarantee you, it's mud. There's nothing. But people smear themselves. You see people like this walking around all the time. At dinner, you'll see them like that. A string quartet of young kids. But if you look at it, it's in the middle of an overgrown field. What's the story? This picture, if they were on a stage, wouldn't be that interesting. But this, it evokes a story. You're thinking, what's the story behind that? This was in the middle of the Gobi Desert, a tiny little town. It was a festival. That is their town square like too. And they were just performing out there. That's all they have. So a lot of these, if the viewer is asking a question, gee, what's the story behind that, then that's good. There. One of the ones, you have to be fast again. This was during a fire I took this. And the fireman was upset. I was looking for him in particular. He was up there, burning embers. There's smoke all around here. He's just taking a cigarette break. You just can't get enough smoke in there as well. Impact. Looking for things that have impact. This is in Saigon. Again, this has nothing to do with COVID or whatnot. The pollution is so bad that everyone walks around when they're on their motorcycles and whatnot like that. At a festival, getting right up close to some of the performers too. I mean, anything with 5 skulls on top of it is pretty intimidating. But again, this is that impact thing where it's not a matter of being artistic, it just kind of grabs you. This young girl at night, just sitting, staring right at you too, was really impactful. This was in Laos. And it's actually a benign story. She was helping her mother cut open pineapples or whatnot too, and the mother was just having her hold that while she did something else. But again, crop just around her, with her just happening to look out at you like that too, gives you that impact. There are images that don't have the impact maybe, but they're just artistic. And these are always, all these different things you're always keeping your eye out for. Here, this was in Bhutan, but just the huge amount of colors, and the reds, the yellows, the oranges, and things too, just made it a picture that just appeared to me to be beautiful. Here, the muted palette of just the soft greens, the browns, the texture of it too, with them gazing out. I just like the soft colors as well. So these are more impressed me from an artistic point of view. So you're always keeping your eyes open for many different kind of situations. And there's no rule that a candidate has to be a headshot. This was an old man doing calligraphy in Saigon, and the window light coming in. I thought that was just an interesting picture there. A woman, again, was just taking a break, carrying her son on her back. This was just off to an alleyway. There was just a little light coming in from the side. Just, again, seemed to be an interesting picture. Not something that, has to be posed or looked at you. These were 2 monks, and their job was to keep the rhythm. Those are the instruments they have. One bangs on the drum, and the other clangs the cymbal, so the dancers out in the courtyard are able to keep the rhythm and dance. But again, most of the people taking pictures were out taking pictures of the dancers. When you're looking for candidates, there was this little room that they were sitting in. And it just ended right here, and they were in the back, and I was just poking my nose in and saw that too. So sometimes you go looking, and that's when you get the really interesting shots. This is like when the macro people do the bug photography. This is my bug photography. Kids are like bugs. If you've ever seen bugs just scurry and scamper, a kid will sense the camera miles away. And as soon as you point that, lift your camera up, that kid is gone. You're talking about people who criticize you for shooting on full auto or something too. Doesn't matter. You take a half second to get a setting right. As soon as I lifted this up, I had the settings right. I lifted up, snap, and after that first snap, he was gone, disappeared too. So again, you have to always be at the ready. This is one, again, and you can anticipate. This was by the pyramids, and I noticed these people were hiring these men on horses to take them around too. And they were all coming down this one dirt road. And I thought that's interesting, and most of the people in them were uninteresting, but they were all coming around and towards you. So by just camping myself out there, and as they came around the bend and coming towards me, they were going right into the light there. And eventually, some came by that had just interesting groups of people in them, and you're all kind of set there and set and just ready to go, rather than walking by saying, oh, that looks good, let me take it. So you anticipate and get yourself in position when you see these interesting things. It doesn't have to be a headshot. Here is a little kid just waiting for his mother in a courtyard there in front of the ice cream freezer thing too, just wishing there as well. No face in this, but it just tells a story. So we don't have to have faces. This is one, again, get down at their level. Kids, you'll notice that when you start seeing other people's pictures. Most kids' shots are taken by adults just looking down too. Get down on your knee too. It really changes the perspective. Telling a story, again, getting down. When I got down on my knee to take this of these two little brothers here as well, it was interesting because they were such an interesting pair that there were a number of people around me taking the pictures. And I looked, they were all standing. They were all adults and standing. And they're all going to get the picture, but it's going to be from that perspective looking down, which isn't the same as well. You're at their eye level with these. These again, this is in Saigon. You can see a lot of people wearing the mask there because of the pollution, but opportunities. This is a red light. You're going across the crosswalk. As you go across the crosswalk, you're going to have a whole lot of people just facing you. It's like a portrait studio. So as you go by, your camera settings to do, you stop, take a quick picture, and you can get some interesting shots like that. Angles. I've shown this one before too. This is an Orthodox, a Christian Orthodox priest. This was in Cairo. And he was there, and I just loved the look of his eyes, an intense look. I thought it was an interesting picture, but I thought it would be more interesting. I tried different perspectives, so I got down on the ground. And those of you who've heard me do this talk before, this was me laying down on the ground, shooting up at him too. And if you're doing things like that, if you're a photographer, always be prepared. People are always going to ask you, are you okay? Because they come across, and here they see this American flat on the ground too. Mister, are you okay? Yes, we got to get the shot. So perspective, always in your mind, these things are working as well. And you can take an average picture and make it interesting. There's nothing wrong. Candids don't have to be right in someone's face either. This was with a 500 millimeter lens from behind a palm tree. Again, as the people came down, this was in Jerusalem. Again, a lot of people, if they think you're going to be taking their picture, they'll say no, they turn their head. And you should always respect that too. I've never taken a picture of someone who says no or turns their head. Not. But they don't know you're taking a picture. If you're from a far distance away, you're not really offending anyone. So sometimes, in cases where I know it's going to be sensitive, I was like a block away behind a palm tree with the 500, and you can get some interesting shots there as well. This was, again, kids, they will scurry. Use something to distract them. This was at a street fair. They are watching a juggler with fire sticks. He was juggling fire things. And I thought, if I step behind the juggler, you get the kids looking up. They're not paying any attention to me, and you can get the shot of them. So your mind kinds of get into, when you're in candid, it's in a different mode. You're always walking, looking, and thinking. The eyes are always the important thing. That's what people look at first. You have to focus on something, always the eye. Distance the subject. This was across a courtyard. And when I've given this talk before, I used this slide, is people ask me, well, what about when you get up in people's face or whatnot? A lot of this is intuition. There is a certain space that people have that when you're too close, it's not good. There's no definition. It's not 18 and a half feet, something like that. This was a big courtyard here, and I had a 70-200 on. And there was nothing in this courtyard. I could walk right up to them. When I'm far away on the other side of the courtyard, I could use a 200, but then they're little in the picture or whatnot. I didn't want to do that. Sure, I'd like to be standing right up next to them, but you realize as you get closer, there is some magical distance where you're just something in the background versus, you know, what are you doing here? Or you're here, but they notice you, and then it's not candid anymore. And you kind of get halfway in the courtyard at 135 millimeters. I was still kind of unobtrusive, you know, even though they could see me. So you sometimes, again, you have to consider that, not in terms of a privacy thing, but closer, once they turn and look at you, it's not the candid shot, it's not the natural shot anymore. Same thing here. These were afternoon prayers. The police all put their guns down. Everyone prays together. I could have gotten up real close with this too. But again, it's intrusive then. They turn to look at you. It's not candid anymore. Plus, you feel like you're being intrusive. So you're not talking about a 500 millimeter lens from far away, but a fair distance so that you're not part of the action in a sense, and you can get it. This is just by feel after just a long period of doing these. Work what you have and stop complaining. Sometimes, again, a lot of you see my talks, have seen this one before. This was an interesting man at night, but this was in the middle of the night with a single light bulb. I was with a 200 millimeter lens. I couldn't get closer. There's no light. The lens is too big. I didn't have a tripod, so you got a handhold. Well, that's all the complaining end. Don't take the shot then. You won't have it. But try. You never know. You take it, you really try to hold steady, you use some noise reduction and everything, and you get it. So it's always worth giving it a try. You know, the first thing you do is just, no one wants to hear you complain. Take my word for it. A young kid, he's 5 years old, racing this horse across the desert too. This is where you use, we talk about continuous focus. With the horses going about 30, 35 miles an hour too. Focusing on his face there as well. In that time it takes, 1/2 second to press the button down to, he's moved about 6-7 inches, which is out of the plane of focus too, and it wouldn't be. Continuous focus, holding it on him, keeps him in focus, so it's perfect focus right up until that horse just kind of runs over you there as well. So that's another just technique. Here's looking at you. There is no reason why candid has to be someone staring off in the distance or some pose like that as well. Kids looking at, here they are. They know I was taking them. That's what I was there for. They were smiling away and whatnot. The background and everything here, and just them makes it a pleasing image. Sometimes even again, when people see you taking a picture, they smile or put that, you know, and that ruins the picture a lot of times too. You want a candid. But sometimes, you know, the thumbs up with the man, that's camel, by the way, that's the tail, which is delicacy too. And it's just in an open meat market, it's just him staring right at you, giving the thumbs up. It works in this. These kids, they're mugging for the camera out on the street there. But in this case, it works fine. The group of kids on a back alley street and whatnot. Again, so when they look and they give you a pose too, that's not always bad. The look. So I asked him, this is on top of a giant sand dune, and I asked him as the sun was coming out, can I take your picture? And he just turned and gave me, this is their look that they have. That kind of dissuades people from doing a lot of things. You know, so he said yes, and then gave me the look, and I really like it because of that. Had he been looking out into the distance or into the sun, something like that too, it just wouldn't be the same. Again, the look. This was just the Mekong River. This young man was helping his father pilot the boat, And he was gazing out, and I wanted that to be the picture of him gazing out. And I took a shot of that too, but then he noticed me, heard the click of the camera, turned and looked at me, and I got another shot off, and I just happened to like the one where he's actually looking right at me. Again, this was a Hale Farm, blacksmith there, window light. I had him while he was working too, but it was the one where he was actually looking back at me that I liked. A street, well, this was a shop owner, that's right, in Cairo. Of course he knew I was taking his picture. I had asked him and whatnot, and he just looked at me there too. But in this case, that worked. This was one of the Civil War reenactments, a young kid with a lot of the bokeh in the background and the narrow depth of field, but looking right at me. You don't know at the time whether it's going to work or not, but it's worth trying because some of these really are better when they're looking right at you. Again, from some of the reenactments, looking right at you. The Kanye D-Day reenactment. Again, a number of them I had when he was looking different ways and whatnot. When he actually looked at me, this was the one I liked. So don't rule out when someone looks at you or looking straight on that won't work. And lastly, here's another one where, again, I had multiple pictures of her. This is the Kanye D-Day reenactment. I love the color of the hair, putting everything out of focus in the back, but it was when she was looking right at me that it worked. So you could see that's just street photography, candidates. Street photography, people think they gotta go out on the street downtown. I'm not going to do that, whatnot. You see, a lot of these are, first of all, reenactments. Reenactments, the people love you to take their picture. That's one. Two is when you're in tourist areas around the United States and things too. If it's a tourist area, a lot of the people there expect you to take their picture too. So it's not a big thing if you see a candid shot and take it as well. So you could do a lot of these without being downtown trying to get unknown people on the street. So these are just some of the little tips that I kind of threw in last minute there. I think the judges are almost ready. Are there any questions? Yeah, Jen, let me turn on the lights here. Yeah.
So you said that, when you ask and they want their picture taken, you don't. But some of the ones are you're from a distance, you don't know, or like somebody that would be recognizable, or even the children, like what are the rules? Or like
what are the rules? The rules are a combination of legalities and ethics. Everyone sets their own guidelines. The legalities are any picture in the United States, I'm talking about. Any picture taken from a public area is fair game. That includes taking pictures into people's windows at night with a telephoto lens, because you're on a public street. There was a few years ago an exhibition in New York, a photography exhibition by a well-known photographer that was views at night inside people's windows. Again, and it was very controversial, whatnot, but the bottom line is it's all legitimate as well. If you want privacy, you close your blinds as well. So that doesn't mean it's good or anything else, but that's the legalities. Should you be out there putting cameras in people's faces? This is where it comes, a more morality question. The guidelines I use are, if I'm up taking a picture and someone gives me a sign that they don't want their picture taken, and if you're overseas and when they don't, a lot of times people just put up their hand or they shake their head no. I could still get away and say, I don't. With any sign of them not wanting their picture taken, I do not take that. If there is a place where you want to get candidates and use a big telephoto or something, like in Jerusalem, that's fine. I mean, the people there, the Orthodox, don't want their picture getting taken, not for any religious reasons. They don't like you. I mean, they don't like anyone. I mean, I can say that I lived in Israel for I know, and it's just it's an ornery bunch to there, but it's not violating anything. Now I say that because, and I could say that being Jewish also. So but the Amish or some American Indian, they don't like their picture taken for cultural reasons and religious reasons, and then I would not do a telephoto. Even if they didn't know I was taking it, because I just don't feel that's right. So yes, you can take it, but that doesn't mean you should, and everyone makes their own decision there. So that's how I do it. In ones I know where they have a reason they don't want their picture taken, I don't, as well. So I try to use discretion, and if someone doesn't want it, I don't. Any other, I didn't mean to get into politics or anything, too, but that's, yeah, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it depends not only whether you have the right to take the picture, but what you do with it. So for example, you might be able to take like a candid picture, but then if you submit it to a stock photo company, you got other problems. So it's not just do you take it, but what are you gonna do with it? But you can take it and look at it yourself and.
Right, we had there was a speaker that we had last year, and who talked on she was a lawyer and talked on the legalities of street photography. But it was very, very interesting, because some of this varies, like Nick said, what you do with the image as well. It varies from country to country and things that too. But it's a good rule for all of us too. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Any other questions? Okay, well, good. We'll just wait for the judges were kind of looking in there. We will take a short break while they come in. You go get there.
I didn't know that my camera had the capability to do that, you know.
Yes.
I thought that was, you needed more technical.
Yeah, it's really good. They're still hoping.
Oh, well, that's good.
But I do have my new camera, so it matters.
Oh, you got your new one?
God's great.
Oh, congratulations.
Nice job, buddy.
I don't,
Yeah, I don't hear this.
no, you don't have to.
I will
go.
deal with this guy.
I found that you're supposed to have a cover on your touch.
But that being said,
He's like, well, if you lost it, I go, I know for a fact mine did
I
not
don't
come
know
with
whether
one.
this does it, but there's.
Yes, you have to go buy one.
Never seen before.
That's kind of debatable.
Well, oh, okay. He was saying the context,
Yeah.
you know, stuff, whatever. He's like, you get like a package of 20 of them for like $5.
There's something.
Oh,
There's I'm like, I'm just going, I'm like, I know what
Focus on the spot.
Yeah, they're super cheap.
It's empty. There's nothing
On
in
mine,
it.
it's
And you hit the shutter, the camera won't take the picture
contacts are
until something moves into focus.
they're like
I've never heard of that.
No, I hadn't even thought that. No, no. Certain ones, but there are tricks like that that
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
Too low that it is it's nowhere close to other ceiling, so nowhere close. Like
In
even
some
they're
ways, I
like,
think
we
it's
talked
kind
about
of
going
like
to TTL, like, yeah, my wife doesn't do TTL. Like they're like, no, everyone does, and they go, no. Like, so, you not have the camera as well. I'll put that little lens or another camera body for you. But
I
what
read
camera
it.
did you do?
R7.
Well,
I haven't got to watch the take 30 frames a second and getting my
That's why I like my
attention.
camera. I have a black color shot.
Yeah, it's-
The reason I have that is because there's YouTube videos of that I saw.
Had you had Canon before?
Yeah, that's why I went with
Because
Canon.
that's the camera she has.
I-
And I just wanted to see the camera at the time.
And I'm just gonna go deep.
Tomorrow night,
Very
after
light. Well, that's just the-
Jerry, I might actually go back to Walmart, to be honest.
Like,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
Well, if you get really good at trying to
but
work
by
with really fast animals in
one
a
lens at a
prime
time,
area,
if you're doing a certain type
I can't
of.
get a clear picture of my parents to save my life because they just won't.
I have too many,
Or they're sleeping, and then when they're sleeping, they'll look dead. So
but I have to do little.
they're not cute when they look dead. Like,
We'll see traffic payments, but it ends as early as today, and it's 2:30.
oh, really? It ended that early?
And I realized that I wasn't taking pictures of people.
Every round home.
No, well, I'm just looking at them, didn't fail the
Yeah,
pictures.
I'm happy.
My cousin did a charity they held down a 23-story building. And so I took some pictures.
Oh, yeah, there's like TV shows where it's like, that was edited.
I had fun taking pictures of them. Then I got a few shots that I, you know.
I screwed up my flash, for the first.
But still, it's.
The mother did not give me enough space for it.
I've tried to shoot birds.
I literally was far from the child, and I had an umbrella. I had no space. Like,
You know,
so
I made my run with
the
it.
lighting there was I'm trying to combat it with the flash. On the phone, if I could move back, like I could borrow. I rented a 50mm 1.8. I couldn't even use it. And it was just like, I'm not. And so then
But it's fun.
I'm trying to work with the background material because you have no way to like things. And I'm trying to fix all this crap in Photoshop. And I'm just like, and then I put the kid down there to make sure there's no like little fuzzies or anything. So I went lay it down, I laid him down, I didn't realize this. I'm going back and having to edit my hair across the start. I'm like, exactly, yeah. And
Definitely.
I'm not that fast at editing, but this is taking time. Like, and you have to have by tomorrow because there's
And
even
also,
printed by
what
Sunday
I also
for
like
to
to
make
do,
Welcome
I
to the
like
World
nature.
part. Your Twitter out. And it's a Winnie the Pooh print, and of course, that's the first one that I did, and I'm going, well, this is the best I did it for me. And I would not, I'm not putting my name on it. Fun, I mean, there's some that turned out fun. For what the situation was, I'm happy with them. but it's not how you set it up. But when you only have the little tiny area, and you can't back up.
It wasn't wrong, not at all.
And you had to cover the dresser behind that.
And I wasn't sure what kind of dog it was. So I went online and I,
Do you have any samples?
yeah.
Not of those, no.
Yeah.
I will have by Wednesday. That'll be because that down the road, but I did the waterfalls with these two. I've seen them. That was the first time I ever using a tripod, ever using long exposure. So,
Yeah, they all came out.
In fact, I was wondering what kind of tree
And
died.
that's using a monopod.
Seems to think it's a bird.
hey, it was bouncing my foot at the time. I only went in the water twice. Well, no, actually, sorry. I slipped twice. I only went in the water. Oh, did you not see me? Yeah. When I was up at the little ones where the leaves were super focused. Oh, yeah, I was squatting down. I was totally on like green rock.
Well, you heard
And you saw me, and I just, my foot slipped, and I just kind of back slammed into the rock, and I just kind of was like, well, I'm already down now, so I might as well just sit here. So luckily I was smart, because I know myself. So I wore leggings underneath my jeans, and then when I was done shooting, I just took my jeans off, and I just walked the car. But he liked my little
This is power.
yeah. I mean, I learned 6 months prior, and I felt like, all right. There's one that I did where they did a double waterfall and there's like 2 leaves, 2 branches, like they're dancing. But that one took a little bit of time. The other one didn't get it. And apparently it edited.
The only problem.
There's too much berries. I like dark, but apparently I think my monitor I didn't brightness up too much because they did look darker on Facebook. Like I didn't look at it properly.
Mine's like that too, like.
And then when I went back on Facebook, I'm going, no, they're a little darker than they were supposed to be. I'm like,
Yeah.
when I open it back on my computer, I'm like, nope, they're not that bright there. And I'm going, they're not that dark there. I mean, I had dark intentional light, but they were darker than on Facebook. Listen, marketing.
Here,
That's what
table.
people mean when they talk about their screens aren't calibrated. Yeah. I'm like, oh, really? I have to get a monitor first. Because right now I'm working off the computer that he doesn't like Photoshop. Everything gets run up my external hard drive. I can't keep anything on my computer in order to run Photoshop, and then it still flips out at me.
Connected photos.
Yeah, but
Well,
I'm,
every summer
I
they
talked to the
hold
one girl in Photoshop, and she's like,
3-day,
one monitor, she's like, it's a whole bunch.
like a convention. They
IR.
have workshops,
Or
dealers
something, she gave
selling
me 3
stuff.
letters, she goes, look for these
They have,
3
you
letters.
can borrow a
And
model
choose, you
and
can get a
take her
good
for a
one.
walk.
Yeah, 100
Or in-
bucks and going,
And-
okay, you
Huh?
know, sold.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you look it up, it's like $1,600 for a monitor.
There's like office
Okay, I'd rather get a lens.
I lucked out my,
So they have like
boss got me 2 fancy gaming monitors. Someone asked for it, and someone used it for
So they get a little
and
off.
someone who want there. So I have 2 of these fancy monitors. They're
For club
have great
members.
quality for pictures. Okay, sure, why not?
3 days. By the way,
I just
B&H
remember talking about
has, you know, B&H Power,
I use them a lot.
they do
Yeah,
a
I had
lot of
like
them
extra
online.
TVs and extra monitors before, and it
Coming
was
up
just,
about B&H.
when I moved, I was like, well, these things must have been sitting.
So,
there,
I wanna get
I
into it.
haven't used for a while.
Each one has had some.
Yeah, I'm trying to
photographers
put
in it.
screws in it, check everything.
Okay,
Got this big
We're now
picture
gonna
in the toolbar.
get underway
And I'm
with
like, there was
tonight's
no change in the
bee
yeah, then it could've worked.
competition. So without further ado, I give you Marge Brady, chairman of our bee competition.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to the first bee competition of the year. The judges, we've got 3 judges, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but they are scoring each picture in 3 categories: on composition, technique, and impact. So each judge can give each one of those categories 3 points maximum. So that would be a 9-point score from each judge would be a perfect score. So anybody who gets a 27, which there weren't any tonight, but if you ever do get a 27, you're kicked out of beginners and you're in the regular competition. And I just wanted to mention that the next bee competition is on November 11, and this is a projection competition. So there is a website that you need to go to called Shutterscore, and you submit your pictures electronically. Did the people in the class get a link to Shutterscore?
People in the class should have a link to Shutterscore because it's for members only, and you are a member when you're in the classes for 3-4 months too. So if there's any problem in Shutterscore trying to make an account for yourself and it won't, just email us.
And if you don't have a Shutterscore link, then if you go to the CPS calendar and click on the competition on the bee competition on the calendar, it will give you a link to email somebody to get the Shutterscore link. So I hope that makes sense. So you don't need to print anything out for the next competition. It's submitted electronically. The deadline to submit is 9 p.m. on Wednesday, November 2nd. So it's like 9 days before the competition is held. And you can come to the clubhouse and watch it, or you can watch it on CPS's YouTube channel. And it also came to my attention recently that the photojournalism is available for beginners to compete in. So if anybody has an interest in that, go to CPS website and look up the rules for photojournalism. And the next photojournalism is on February 17th. Does anybody have any questions? All right, good luck, everybody. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Chris Bosworth. Been a member since '05. Saying that, assuming it's been that long. I am one of the helpers and instructors for the fundamentals class, and I also participate in our mentoring program, which only runs twice a year. You're too late to get in this year in case you want to. Keep that in mind. I'd just like to say first kudos to you guys for entering, because I know it's hard. We recognize these are your babies up here. We're going to try to be kind and gentle. But there's just amazing images. But our goal tonight is to tell you what you really did well, and hopefully give you a gentle critique on what could have been better.
My name is Nancy Ballack. I've been a member here since I think around 2009. And I teach the environmental portraiture class for the fundamentals class. Some of you may have had me in that. And how many are in the current fundamentals class? Okay, I'll see you next week. And anyway, I'm also the photographer for Hill Farm. I do a lot of their work for their promotional purposes too. So that's all I have.
Hey everyone, is this working? Dan Sandy, I'm the creative competition chair. I also am 2/3, well, Chris here and I are 2/3 of who are going to be replacing Mr. Bill next year for the competition chair lead. We got one other person in that group whose name evades me at the moment. Either way, once again, thank you for competing. It's not easy, but it was good stuff, and hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you don't mob us on the way out.
Yeah, there's a lot of good photographs in this group tonight. A lot of good ones.
So with that,
Lights. Lights.
No, it's rolling around.
Lights. There.
So really impactful image as far as exposure is really good.
Whoa.
We did judge he's in the light. A little more.
Yeah.
Keep going. So this is really impactful. It's very colorful. It's sharp where it should be sharp. The background's got nice bokeh. It's just got a lot of really nice attributes. So if there was anything that, and I saw this a few times tonight, cropping is so huge. By the way, this is a square. It's okay. I don't know that I would, a square crop. And the top I'll do is the best choice, because looking at it, I mean, it might have gone landscape, but it's fine the way it is. The only thing that I would want to do differently, and you have to keep this in mind if you're going to mat a print, and that's to leave some breathing room because his final claw on the upper right-hand side is like touching or very close, well, actually, the last two are close to touching the mat, so it makes you feel restricted on that side.
Crab at Horseshoe Bay, Sandy Tushner, 22 points.
The label. The label's on it.
This is a beautiful flower shot, and the bee is perfectly aligned in the middle. He posed for you well. And the bokeh in the background is nice. It's not all, the background is not totally in focus, which is a good thing. You might have tried maybe a different type of crop. We're going to be talking probably about crops a lot tonight. To maybe have placed it more into one of the corners a little bit. And then you could have put a square crop on it. Would have been a little more interesting rather than putting the flower and the bee directly in the center of the photo. It might have just added a little bit more interest. I mean, you could still do something with this one at home if I'm sure you've got the original file. But just try for fun, trying like to move the flower like up in the corner where part of the flower is totally cut off. And you just got, the most important part of that shot is with the bee in the center, but just maybe move it up a little bit.
Dahlia Delight, Lori Patton, 20 points.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the way we saw it.
It's always a. What else? When you're looking at it, yeah, always remember to put your labels top left of the back of the mat, just so people know how to view the image. I always do that. Sometimes people will put it in the wrong spot, and we view it based on that. Anyway, this is a really nice sharp image. I love the flow lines and the texture kind of created from the brick. I really like how it was split out. Everything is really nice in the frame itself. But you have that nice difference in color between the top and the bottom of the frame itself. I think it's a really well done image.
Building art, Fort Wayne, Wendy Kohler, 22 points.
Okay, so we've got basically what I would call a record shot here. Looks like they're practicing gymnastics. It's well placed in the frame. I like the diagonals of where the legs are pointing out towards the corners, and then you've got the supporting guy in the middle there. It's well exposed. It's really sharp where it needs to be. Of course, if there's anything I would say, and again, this is the problem when you're assessing a print, is you weren't there. I wasn't there. I don't know what all the situations were. I would try, if you have a lens and could shoot a wider aperture, try to get some bokeh going on, blur the background more so that things like that electrical on the left and the poles in the background aren't quite so distracting. Other than that, good record shot. It's well framed, which is so important. The composition is really good.
Yoga Makes Me Happy, Sandy Tushner, 19 points.
I thought this photo was beautifully, it was beautifully done. The center part is nice and sharp. It's nice and focused. It's just beautiful. And the color, of the print is wonderful. The bokeh in the background is subtle, just with a little bit of green against that purple really stands out. It's very pleasing to the eye. I think you just did a really nice job on this. Looks really good.
Iris After Rain, Wendy Kohler, 24 points, first place.
So I think it's a really well done shot. The exposure is really nice. I mean, it is a little darker near the top of the lighthouse, but that's really not a big deal. Overall, great exposure, great focus. But now we're going to talk about, I guess, something we've kind of touched on already a few times now, which is centering the shot. You just got to be careful. Sometimes when you center the shot, it almost takes away from the image a little bit. I'm going to actually argue that this is not one of those cases, for the simple fact that it's not a completely symmetrical shot. In that, you know, you have the riprap on the left side that's kind of extending a little further than the right side, so that kind of offsets it a little bit. And then you obviously have the height difference that helps. I would just recommend maybe cropping a little bit off the bottom. But all in all, that's just being nitpicky. I really like the diagonal line you gain from the top of the lighthouse down through the actual edge of the roof and then down to the guardrail itself. It really adds a nice flow. And when you have something like that and it points right at that corner of the shot, it really adds nice leading lines. This is kind of a assumed leading line because it's not, you know, a line itself. It's more of a visual thing, but it really, those kind of aid in the viewer being pulled into the shot. And I really appreciate that.
May I have one more thing?
You may!
Thank you. To me, it might not appear to somebody else, but to me it looks like it's just slightly crooked, the horizon line. It seems to be a little high over here on the left-hand side, and it's off by just a hair. But you have to kind of make sure that when you've got a shot like this, where you can definitely see the horizon line, that you are level.
Toledo Harbor Lighthouse, Lori Patton, 21 points.
So I really like this shot. It's a real cool portraiture character shot. It pops. It's got great tonality. It's sharp where it needs to be. The background's beautifully blurred. I mean, I almost gave this a 9 out of 10. And the only thing, so saying all those things about it, it's just a really well composed, good shot. I assume you posed him, but you know, he's not looking at the camera. Everything about it's just great. The only thing the reason I took anything off of it is this is back to cropping. Keep in mind when you do your prints to allow room for cropping. His fingertips and the plume on his hat are both just almost touching the mat. So it feels a little crowded vertically. And if you've got, you know, if you redo that shot and give yourself a little more room to be perfect.
Fort Wayne Soldier, Wendy Kohler, 23 points, second place.
This is so captivating, literally. I mean, it's beautiful. The eyes are in really sharp focus, and all of his hair and his whiskers are in focus. And the background is nicely blurred out, and even his posing is pretty nice too. It kind of is in a diagonal going across this way. It's really a nice capture for something. I don't know if you're looking through glass or what, but I thought this is really nice. We actually had to see this one up close. And I was very impressed by how in focus everything was on the Tiger.
I mean, to be fair, we kind of asked to see every image in close. I mean, not to take away from it. I really like
No, I know. It's really good. It's very good. Yeah. It was like this in the judging room too.
Sultry Deburu, Eric Botsky, 23 points, second place.
I know. It's a very interesting shot. I really like the textures and once again, you got these nice leading lines from the roof itself. Now, when I originally looked at this, I kind of struggled to see what the main point of focus was in the shot. I assume it's the balcony with all the flowers and stuff, but just with so much going on, it was a little more difficult for the viewer, being myself at least, to just understand what the story was. But that aside, I think the exposure is really good, focus is really good. I mean, you have a lot going for the image. The main gripe I have would be just on the left side here. You kind of have some elements that are a little blurred, that are a little more prominent, and sometimes that will conflict with the actual subject matter itself, where it kind of draws your eye, because that's just a constant thing right there. And because it's so prominent, when it's blurred, it kind of, once again, competes. So just consider maybe cropping it just a little bit on that left, and you're going to get a lot more focus right on the thing that I believe the artist was aiming for.
Apartment in Athens, Greece, Diane Glatzer, 21 points.
Who did this shot? No. So this is probably back to the wild, which I went for the first time this year. If you haven't gone, you gotta get out there. It's a great place to get animals that are tethered and still, so you can get good pictures. Really good, sharp in focus. The eyes, of course, is what you want to see. And it's just tack sharp where it needed to be. I probably took a picture of this when I was out there, and I don't remember. So I have two little things that I would correct if you can. One you can do now. All the white in the background, I can't remember this one. You might have, if you get off to the side, you might have gotten the tree instead of what that white was in the background, because the white kind of hits you a little bit. It's not as bad here because the majority of it's white. But the other thing, when we're back into cropping, is I would do this vertically. It's like a portrait. It'd be better if it's in portrait orientation on the map.
Or what if they crop just the face like in a square to really, those eyes are just so sensational.
Yep.
To really bring the eyes out more, to crop more into the face, maybe.
I mean, heck, you could even just zoom in on the eyes and the beak, and it'd be
Yeah,
a pretty
oh, yeah,
stellar shot as well.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
It's the beauty of pixels. You could just keep on trying a bunch of different things and see what really kind of different effects you can get.
Yeah, those eyes are just amazing.
Northern Saw-Whet Owl, Rochelle Kovacs, 20 points.
Yeah, I'm getting case. This one, I love this shot. There's something so dynamic about it. It's the eyes. Is that a snow leopard?
Yes.
Yeah. That is just beautiful. The background works so nicely with its fur, and everything is so tack sharp. I'm assuming probably this person that did this maybe did the tiger too. But this is really incredible. I really like this. I like the way that it's looking up, the leopard's looking up to the upper left-hand corner. You've got a nice diagonal going on this shot too. The eyes are so impactful. And all you're seeing is one eye, but that's where my eye wants to go to, is that beautiful eye. You did a really nice job on this one.
Wandering Milia, Eric Botsky, 24 points, first place.
Poor little guy. Made me kind of sad.
Yes.
I just love his little tongue sticking. He's so adorable. That's why his little chin. Anyway, that aside, to the actual critique. Obviously, this is an adorable shot. Great focus on those eyes. Really tells the story. It has a lot of emotion to it. Unfortunately, that emotion is a little sad to me because he's behind a cage, but such is life. So, although I really like the image, there are a few things that I'm a little conflicted with. One being some of the gray in the front or the bars are a bit bright. And I think if you tone that down with a little, is that burn? Is that a burn? I always get those confused. So yeah, do a little burn on that just to just so it's not competing with the actual subject matter itself. The other thing I would say is, and this is gonna sound wrong, so please forgive me. It looks a little muddy, and when I say that, sometimes when you're dealing with the black and white, sometimes the colors are so muted that they kind of all blur together a little bit, and I'm seeing that in like the fur itself, mostly above the eyes, towards the crown of his head. And so sometimes if you bump up the contrast a little bit, it'll help separate that a little bit more and make it a little less flat. It's nothing against the image itself. Like I said, I really do enjoy this, but just try to be mindful that sometimes it gets a little. It doesn't have the contrast needed to really just give it that punch. But man, I really just love that little guy.
Captive Gorilla Eyes, Joe Smith, 19 points.
So we were having discussion afterwards about this. So more judging is totally separate. It's our own opinion. I think all three of us really like this. It's such a unique, creative, feels like what Amsterdam is at the Dutch Masters or something like that. It's just got a great feel to it. And I really liked it, but my only critique, and this is only a personal, subjective view of it, is I think I would have done a little less on the rain. I think this was post-process, but we're not really sure. Of course, if it's done in the rain, then you would have had to open your aperture up a little bit more and blur the window. But so what I'm getting at is the rain effect was just a little stronger than I would have liked. I would like to see more of the building and still keep the rain feel to it. But really nicely done. I like also I forgot to mention how the lights that are on are showing. You see the lights that are on, so it feels like it was probably dusk when you took this. So just has a really nice feel to it. Good job.
If I may just add one thing. One thing I really actually enjoyed about this is, and I completely agree with Chris, along the lines of the intensity of the rain on what I assumed was on glass that you're looking through was a bit much to where you almost lose a little bit of the detail when you're really up close looking at the image. But when you pull back a little bit, it kind of reminds me, I can't remember the famous painter, where you look close, you see every little dot that they painted, and you pull back.
George Seurat?
No, it's we're talking like.
Gwendolyn?
Either way, art history is not my thing. My apologies, but either way, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Is when I was looking up close, it was a bit, like I said, it was a bit abrasive for me, just being a bit intense with that rain effect. But as you pull it away, you start getting more of the picture, and it really just made it a lot more enjoyable.
This was one we all three got to see it up close, all at the same time. And I liked all the rain on it because it gave the whole photograph, I'm going to say, okay, brain dead. Where it was all the same. There wasn't a spot where there wasn't any rain and you saw an intense color in the background. And it just kind of, it brought the whole picture together for me. Like I said, the lot of rain on the window did not bother me. I like that. And I like the way it muted the whole photo. You might have, if that wasn't there, your eyes might have gone to more some of the stronger colors in the photograph. Whereas being this way, it muted, like I said, muted the whole photograph, so your eye just kind of blended all the colors together, and there there wasn't a spot that was too busy or not busy enough or too colorful. It just blended it together. I really, really like this one.
Stavanger, Norway through rainy bus window. Diane Glatzner, 23 points, second place.
Okay. I like this one too, and I like the way there's that diagonal black, and it just looks like the eagles peeking out from the corner. It's different. You usually just see a full eagle's head, and this one is split. And he just looked like he's really ticked off. And I like that, and I like the shadowing around his face. Sometimes you see a lot of the white feathers around here, and these feathers aren't white, they're more gray. It's more of a subdued photo rather than a bright, brilliant eagle's head. And I like the way this was done. Maybe a lot of people might not, but I really do like the way you have the black cutting across the eagle's face, because you captured what's important on that eagle's face. The eyes are nice, sharp focus. You can see all the like little wrinkles or whatever under his eyes, like many of us have. And it's wonderful. I thought it was very, very good.
Waiting in the shadows, Joe Smith, 21 points.
The colors and tonality in this are just really fantastic. I really enjoy it. Focus worked really well in the center of the shot. It gets a little blurred. Actually, obviously you can tell it gets a little blurred as it goes a little further back. I did feel that it was a little blurry in the front, but I guess that's not too big of a deal. The one thing I would be try to be mindful of is that dewdrop or raindrop right below the center of the flower itself. Once again, that's one of those things where it's a lot brighter than any of the surrounding features, so it kind of draws your eye in, which then distracts from the rest of the image. That's just once again being nitpicky. Like I said, I love the tones. The overall feel is just, it almost has an ethereal feel to it, and I really enjoy that. If I were to suggest an edit, I would just say maybe consider cropping the bottom a little bit to remove that dewdrop. And then maybe a little bit of the left, but that's kind of pushing it. It's just, once again, that one little spot's the only thing I really have a issue with, I guess.
Fading away, Rochelle Kovacs, 21 points.
Do you? Kristen said he likes the dewdrop. See, that's the beauty of art, is it's all subjective.
This is just an astounding image. This thing has impact. It's like, wow. And we took a close look at this again. Everything is sharp. The surfer is tack sharp. I can feel the roar of the waves. This is just, you're there. You know, it's just a great picture. It's sharp where it needs to be. The exposure is right on. And again, we're going to talk about composition. I don't know, again, I wasn't there, but again, we've got so many pixels. I would have recropped to keep the surfer out of the dead center. You only included a little sky, which is great. It gives you some context, but you could have moved it one way or the other. I'm not sure what you have left on either side, left or right, but I just would have moved him out of the dead center because it's already such a emotive photograph. It's got so much dynamic action going on that to have him dead middle kind of static the shot a little bit. So I would just move him off to the left or the right. A really good shot.
It's nice that the photographer left enough room on the right-hand side for the surfer to go into.
Yeah.
This is the reflections in that water.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous.
And that is something that, we can't say everything about what, you could have been tempted to crop it really close because you got enough sharpness there. You could have cropped it really close to where this is almost where the surfer filled the whole frame.
And screaming. You
Yeah.
should see the screaming.
Yeah. But that would have lost the whole impact of it, of where he is. That this wave's coming in on him, it's curling over on the left, and he's shooting. I assume he's gonna hang off to our right. And I don't know where you were when you shot this and what kind of lens, but
It'd have to be incredible to see in person.
yeah, really good job.
Is it? I know that.
Bonsai Pipeline, North Shore Oahu,
Thank you.
Diane Glatzer, 24 points, first place.
We weren't drinking anything back there, really. Oh.
Maybe you should have been.
You guys are gonna eat me as I'm after. I have to see this one up close too. I wanted to make sure that the eyes on the bird were nice and focused, and they are. And the blue on top of its head is just brilliant. It adds a lot of color to the whole shot. I may have done away with a little bit of the wood that it's standing on. To me, you want to see the bird, and it seems like that the wood that's coming up, or the branch, is a little bit too prominent in the picture. So maybe if you had possibly cropped up a little bit more on it, because you've got to really, that wood's interesting, like right off to the right a little bit. There's like a little round spot there that's neat. Maybe to crop it way up into there a little bit. And I think your bird would have stood out a little bit more. And your background looks really good, nice bokeh, nice soft bokeh back there, and your exposure looks pretty nice too.
Barn Swallow on a Stump, Joe Smith, 22 points.
I really enjoy the colors and sharpness of that flower in the front. I was a little torn on this one, although I really enjoy the textures and flow presented by the front flower. The flower in the back is pretty prominent as well in the frame, but unfortunately, once again, it's a little blurred. And so to me, it once again, it's competing for attention with the front. One thing that maybe consider is, well, is maybe cropping a little off the top and a little off the left. And by doing that, you're going to remove a little bit of the distraction. Although I do enjoy the flow and the elements that it adds, I just think it's kind of taken away from the beautiful kind of toned down colors of this flower in the front. The one thing I was going to suggest, but this would involve taking a different photo, so I didn't feel it would be appropriate, would be maybe even considering trying to get half of that front flower in the shot, because those radiant petals really add a lot. I think they're beautiful. And so by focusing on that a little bit more, I think it would get a stronger image. But once again, we're supposed to be talking about the image in front of us here, so that's why I suggested maybe just crop it a little bit off, and by doing that, you're going to focus a lot more on the details and the stuff that's really sharp and impactful. But all in all, I really enjoyed it.
Sunflowers, Jen Gaba, 20 points.
This is another one I would have put in the category of like a record shot. There's a little bit going on. Well, first of all the good things. The good things are it's got a lot of color. There's symmetry in this between the structure, but there's symmetry there with the columns and over the top, symmetry in the bench, symmetry in the vases, so the vases. So if you're going to show symmetry, you want to make sure that it is truly symmetrical. You did a great job with that. The sharpness is really good. It's got good impact for the scene where you are. I guess let's said, it's a record shot. I don't know that there's anything that I would have necessarily changed. It's just that it's a very good record shot. It's well exposed, sharp, has good symmetry.
Garden bench, Kathy Perexta, 19 points.
I find the composition on this rather interesting. You have the clouds that are so perfectly diagonal, and there's no little lingering clouds down below or anything, and your skydiver is directly into the blue of the sky. The parachute's interesting too, where there's a little bit of sunshine or something on the top right part up there where the yellow is. That brings a little bit more vibrance into it. Otherwise, the photo was a little bit flat without that yellow up there at the top. You don't have him directly in the middle of the shot. You have him off to the side. Like I said, there's a nice diagonal with the clouds going this way and the parachute coming down this way. Add some interest. I don't have anything else to say about it, either of you.
I like the fact that you left room for the parasailer we let you go into.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, how dare you not know your extreme sports? Come on, Nancy.
I like the screaming surfer.
And by the way, I thought that was adorable. You think this like every surfer is just screaming the whole time they're on the wave. And
That was so taking the shot.
it's hilarious.
Paragliding over Edgewater, Jen Gaba, 21 points.
Where's that? What did it do? Oh, really? Oh, geez.
The shot has a lot of nice colors and textures and flow to it. I was a little bit torn for the simple fact that there's actually almost too much to enjoy. The details that I find the most riveting and really just draw you in as a viewer are the reflections in those kind of flowers on the pads, the lily pads, or I don't know what kind of flowers those represent. But basically cropping a little bit of the green kind of stalky looking things in the back and a little bit off the left. And I really think you have some beautiful stuff right in the front. But once again, because there's so much going on, it's hard for the viewer to know where their eyes can focus. And by kind of limiting some of that, I think you're going to have a lot stronger of an image.
It's reflections and give them.
Yeah, gorgeous. And so I just think that's where the really strong elements are in the shot. Right? It's basically right at that water line, a little bit above, and definitely those reflections.
Asian Lights Reflections, Kathy Perexta, 19 points.
This has just got a lot of great impact. I mean, anybody owning a dog would love to have a portrait. It's really, really good. Made a decision to go in really close, so you're fine, taking off the top of the head and a little muzzle. It's just really impeccable. It is tack sharp. Come up and look at this. It is tack sharp. I mean, the one ear that's in the background is okay to be a little soft. You just can't get that. You don't want that probably. It's just should be part of the background. I thought a little bit about maybe I would have made it a complete black and white. And you got that option here in D competition. It's totally open, so you can make black and white, and anything goes with that. I'm still torn. I don't know that I would have done anything different. The more I thought about it, the more I thought I liked the color of the eyes to offset the black and white. So I'm sorry, I don't have anything to add that I would do differently.
This is an amazing shot.
Beauty in the Black, Amy Rudowitz, 24 points, first place.
I like the way that the turtle has its head up, like that, kind of gives you a nice diagonal going up this way. The log and the turtle shell gives nice texture to the photograph, and the color on the turtle's belly is pretty nice too. To me, it's just a little bright, but that's just my opinion. I would maybe take a levels adjustment if you know how to do some Photoshop, maybe to take it down a little bit in the midtones. But your eye is nice and sharp on this. Everything else on the turtle is nice and sharp too. Like I said, I really like the texture all through the photograph, on the log and on the turtle's legs, under its chin. Really nice texture on that. And the background, to me, is just a little bit bright too. It kind of blends right in with the turtle. There's not too much delineation between the two. But you got a nice turtle. You got him to pose very well for you. That looks really good. I like the way his head's up like that. Usually they're all flat laying against the log, but that's nice.
But Jim, I want to jump in and offer out of turn for the first time. One little tip for all of you that I would really take to heart, and that is, I agree with everything Nancy said. The problem, most of all, is you shot at the wrong time of day. It's just not a good time of day for subjects like this, because you see the deep shadow under him, and the shadow's open enough where you see detail, but it doesn't give you as much of a good feeling, and it causes the glare of the shell. So when you're high noon, when it's like, I've always said, my nap time would be like between 10 and 2 in the day. Shoot in the morning or the more towards the evening, you get much nicer, especially if the sun's up, you get just better quality of light.
We're shooting on cloudy, didn't you? Perfect light box.
Vibin Turtle, Anton Krieger, 20 points.
Good title. Binding turtle. Okay, now that I've learned about parasailing. The light on,
Section one.
oh, it is?
Yeah, I went.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. I've done it to you how many countless times in previous competitions. I think it's only.
Go for it, go for it.
Okay, awesome.
We're gonna get fired, we're not gonna be able to do the thing.
You know, for you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
I'll take you guys. Anyway, man, I really like how you frame this. It might be a little tight, but all in all, the main subject matter is not touching any of the edges of the frame. You have good lighting on it. Everything seems to be nice and sharp. I'm not a huge fan of the tree at the bottom of the shot, especially right in the water there, just that little bit. I would suggest cropping it, but in doing that, then you would really get closer on any of your other edges. And really, I would not advise that because you're already kind of getting kind of close. But I do really appreciate the fact that you gave room for the paraglider to actually move into and kind of follow the flow of the image.
But look how nice the light is on that parasail compared to the other one was really dark. This one is just beautiful.
Yep.
Treetop Glider, Jen Gaba, 19 points.
So this is a great study in graphics and design. It's really got, I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's sharp where it needs to be. It's got good tonality for a black and white. It was hard to determine up there at the top where it is a little bit hot, where the light's coming through in some of the parts of the top. And if it were possible to maybe shade that, but then you would have lost some of those great shadows coming through. So again, wasn't there. I don't know what the shooting condition was like. The only thing if I had to correct something, it's not quite symmetrical, but it gives the impression of symmetry. So I don't know if you could have moved a little bit when you look at the upper left and right hand corners. They're not the same, but our diamond and the quadrant in the middle, the dead center, is perfectly centered and gives the impression of symmetry. So just a little tweak, you could probably even do that with a repro.
That texture at the bottom is wonderful. Oh, it's really nice. It really adds to the whole photograph.
So, you know, I heard someone in the back say they were forks.
Yeah.
But either way, I would definitely would have never guessed those are forks. I'm gonna interject here, real quick. I really enjoyed this, for the design elements, as Chris had previously stated. The one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit was just how dark, some of those little prongs, I guess, would be, especially in that middle. It's like, I guess, the third guy down. The only other thing I would say is just be mindful of the top left corner there. You just have a little bit of white. Sometimes when you have just that little splotch, that's enough to kind of be a little much. But at the same time, you kind of have a nice little thing where you have a black edge in the corner and a white edge in the corner. Either way, it's really enjoyable. Gives you something to stare at for a while.
Space Between, Amy Rudowitz, 23 points, second place.
It's 2 points. I'll show you.
I love this place. This was taken at Northern Ohio Railroad Museum. If you haven't been there, it's really a great place to go for taking some good macro shots of rust and just it's wonderful. I'm not sure if that's where it's at, but this looks a lot like it. I would like to see it a little bit more punchy. Maybe just if you're going to redo this, to possibly put a little bit of contrast in here, just to get those colors to really pop. Right now, it looks a little bit on the flat side to me, anyway. It's I would like I said, like to see it a little more punchy. I like your composition because your eye flows from the train, like from right up here, going all the way back, and your eyes just follow right along the windows of the train in the front, or the car in the front, all the way to the back, to the windshield of the one behind. And the one, I think it's very well composed. Did a nice job.
Just be mindful of your bright spots. The top bright's a little bit hot, and that kind of, once again, competes with the subject matter. You could easily crop that, and it wouldn't negatively affect the image too much.
So I do like that aqua color on the door that's right there, taking me back.
Streetcar Graveyard, Kathy Perexta, 20 points. And that concludes the competition for tonight.
Y'all did a really nice job. You did great.
If you guys have questions about your comments,